Welcome back. All of us in the course of our careers will have something to do with a nonprofit. Some of us will go to work for a nonprofit organization, and others of us will serve on boards of a nonprofit or will support it financially. So it's really important for us as marketers to understand what are the differences between marketing a not for profit organization versus a for profit organization. So if we take a look, the first thing we want to look at is we need to identify who are the customers we're trying to serve. Now, if we take the Humane Society, for example, the customers the Humane Society is trying to serve are people that are looking for pets and people that are looking for or are trying to save pets from being euthanized, people who don't want to support a puppy mill or a breeder program. They're looking for various types of customers. Okay, so first off, we go and identify the customer we wish to serve. Then we set some objectives. And the objectives are, how many animals do we want these folks to adopt? How much financial support do we want them to provide? So we have the food, the shelter, money to hire people to walk the dogs and cats and pet the cats in our shelter. Okay, so we set some specific objectives that we need. Money, sales, awareness could be another one that we want. Okay, all those things. Once we've got our objective set, then we set about developing programs to deliver those objectives. Okay, so we set up and develop the programming. We figure out how much we want to charge. Well, because we're a nonprofit, what we're looking at is not just a break even. We need a little bit of profit, but we don't need massive profits. So whereas an industry norm might be 10% after tax profits, a nonprofit may settle for 3 or 4%. They need a little bit, so they've got a few dollars left over for other functions they have to undertake and for safety, but they don't need the same level of profitability as a for-profit. Okay, so don't think of nonprofit as just straight break even. That's probably the biggest thing I'm trying to get at here. Nonprofit means profit's not your primary goal. Your primary goal is something else. Okay. Now we've got our goal, we schedule our events or programs. So are we going to have a weekend where we'll waive our fees, for example? Are we going to do an open house where people can come in and interact with the animals? What are things that we can do to achieve our goals and objectives that we've set out? And last but not least, we want to communicate this. Now, your textbook talks about communication through brochures. That's a little old school. Today, most nonprofits heavily use social media and electronic media. It's cheaper, it's much better targeted, which is the one thing they're concerned about because they have very specific groups they're trying to get to. And it allows them to stay up to date because oftentimes their needs change fairly quickly, especially if there's a big run on the shelter. You may find that we don't have sufficient food to feed the animals for whatever reason. Okay, so nonprofit organization marketing. Number one, identify the customers you want to serve. Number two, explicitly set objectives. Number three, develop, manage, and eliminate programs and services. You might find you've got a program you don't need anymore. Get rid of it. Okay? Decide on your prices. Schedule events or programs. And communicate the availability of these programs through a variety of means, whether it's traditional media like brochures or new media, the digital side. Nonprofits have some unique issues attached to them. The number one is the target market. For companies in the for-profit side, your market wants your product. There's an actual need for the product in their minds. So they actively seek out what you're doing. And they're only going to approach you if they're really interested in the product. Sadly, nonprofits don't have that. Sometimes the people who they're targeting are apathetic to the cause. Okay, not so much on the Humane Society, but let's say you're running a program for methadone. You may find that the people that you're targeting, really don't want to go on methadone for one reason or another, or don't know about it. They're just apathetic to the concept. Worse, you might have some other groups that are strongly opposed to your program because they think it's encouraging drug usage. So what we've seen is that causes major problems as we try and roll programs out. We've seen that with a lot of programs geared towards very culturally sensitive issues, new needle programs, reproductive rights, for example. We've seen those pop up, okay? We find that nonprofits tend, even though they should be segmenting fairly carefully, sometimes they default to using a very non-segmented or undifferentiated market. They see everybody as the same, and they just approach everybody, where you really want to target down to people who are most likely to support your cause. We take a look at complementary positioning. So we might want to look at a for-profit organization that's doing something similar and position ourselves complementary to that to get some of the goodwill from that for-profit to rub off on us. So those are three unique areas: the apathetic or strongly opposed targets, the pressure to adopt undifferentiated segmentation, and complementary positioning. Now, what about the products themselves or the services themselves we're delivering? Well, one is they tend to be fairly complicated. It's not as simple as our cell phone, okay? We tend to have the benefits we're delivering tend to be complicated, difficult to explain. So trying to explain them in a typical way, a typical promotional way, is very difficult to do, okay? We tend to find that the benefit strengths really depend upon the different groups. And if we're trying to do this undifferentiated segmentation, we treat everybody the same, not everybody sees the benefits the same strength. So that's an issue as well. And we see the level of involvement with the people. Sometimes some groups have more involvement with the product than others. And what we want to do is make sure that we have this tie to the product, because that provides a better way of marketing it. The next area to take a look at where they have issues is place. Okay? Capacity is a major driver of most nonprofits. The two big examples are shelters for homeless. When the weather gets bad, usually they're full fairly quickly. Okay? Or the shelters for abused spouses and children. Those tend to fill up fairly quickly. And because of that, they have to pick and choose who they take. Capacity is also a major player in things like the Humane Society as well. How many kennels do they have? How many animals can they put per kennel? That determines how many animals they can hold at any given time. And usually, because there's such a capacity piece, fixed costs play a much bigger role in the delivery of the services and where the services are delivered, in this case, the place option, where services are delivered for a nonprofit. So think about capacity and the fact that we're talking about a fixed asset have major roles to play in this particular area. If we take a look at the unique side of promotions, for the most part, we're relying on professional volunteers. And that's why I said we're all going to be involved with a nonprofit in one way, shape, or form. Some of us will work for them, get paid by them. Others of us will volunteer. And because of that, we have to make sure that the volunteers understand and can successfully deliver the message so that we have a concise and clear message going out. We can try and run sales promotions with for-profit firms. Again, what we're trying to do is play off of their skill set, play off of their relationships, their goodwill. Okay. And the last thing we try and do is we try and get public service advertising, or PSAs. You know, those ones they show late at night or when they can't sell the advertising for, right now it's stop smoking, it's make sure you watch out for motorcyclists, it's a variety of different issues that we see. Those are PSAs. The time for those ads is given out freely, but it tends to be not prime time, because prime time is paid for by for-profit guys. PSAs tend to go into slots they can't sell for one reason or another. So when we're talking about promotion, we have to remember we're dealing with professional volunteers, so we need to make sure they have a consistent message. We try and run things jointly with for-profit firms, pardon me, to take advantage of their goodwill. And we try and do public service advertising to get our message out. Last but not least, we have to take a look at the unique pricing issues. What are the pricing objectives? Well, in a for-profit firm, they're very easy to understand. We're looking to make money. In a nonprofit, they're not so easy to understand. We're not looking to lose money, but we're looking to have certain benefits as well. So our pricing objectives are not as hard and fast as they are in a for-profit organization. We have a lot of non-financial prices. Remember we talked about the reliance on fixed assets. Well, sometimes our fixed asset is not in the best part of town. So if we want somebody to use our service or volunteer, we've put on a price of them having to go into that area, which they may or may not want to do. And that price is having to travel into that area. It's a non-financial price, okay? We also have to take a look that sometimes what we're delivering isn't directly paid for. It's an indirect taxes are paying for some of it. The biggest issues are we have a separation between the payers and the users. Usually the people that are paying for the service are not the users. When we're donating to a particular nonprofit, we're paying for the service to be delivered. They'll always tell you, if you give X amount of dollars, it equates to this, okay? Well, the user is the person who actually uses those services. But now you've got a split. So now you have to find ways to market to both and make sure that the price point that the payer's paying is translated to something the user can understand. Because if you're given something for free, we have a tendency not to treat it with as much respect as if we had to pay for it. So we have to assign some sort of monetary level to it, or at least tell people, hey, it took us this long, so they understand what they're doing. So the user has some sense of the value of what they're getting. That's a very unique pricing piece. And sometimes we have to look at the below cost pricing. Yes, we want to make money, but sometimes on the services we deliver, we sell the service for below the cost of we sell the service for below the cost of providing it because we have somebody else who's paying a higher amount. So if you donate $100 to the Humane Society, and they say, great, that'll spay or neuter 2 animals. And then you go in to adopt an animal and the spay or neutering cost is $19.95, you're going, wait a minute, if I donate it's $50, here it's $20, what's the difference? Well, the difference is when you're donating, we know we can deliver 2+ for that amount. When you're paying for it, we want to make sure that the price point is low enough that you're going to actually do it. And we're probably doing that for below our cost because we want to see it done. It's more important to us, and here's where that pricing objective issue comes in. It's more important to us that you actually do the service than we make money on it. Okay, there you go. That's all we're going to do for today. I'm not adding any additional videos for today, so you don't have to worry about that. So have a great weekend. The one thing you want to work on is your KPI assignment, your key performance indicators, and I'll post that assignment today as well, so you have that for the weekend. So have a great time, and we'll see you on Monday.